Hello, I can see everyone is in the Zoom, and you don't know me, and sorry, my camera is not working, but I'm the IT person at the Lebanon Library. Go ahead and unmute yourselves. Maddie, I've just unmuted you.
Oh, hi.
Hey there. And I was told that you were going to be the person who was going to be leading or facilitating.
I mean, I'm facilitating from the tax side of like, kind of introducing the program and then suggesting some resources that the library has, but Andrew is actually doing like most of the presenting.
Okay, excellent. Hey, Andrew. Yeah, so sorry you don't have my camera on. It was using something else or is being used elsewhere, but yeah, so far you guys are the only ones here, and I will admit anybody else who shows up, okay? But other than that, I'm just basically going to be, unfortunately, lurking. I will turn my mic off so you don't hear the traffic sounds. Okay.
Do you have access to the slideshow? Because I can't share my screen, and I don't think Andrew can share a screen.
Well, hang on a second. I will go ahead and give you permission. So hang on. Let me see where I can find permissions here to share screen. Advanced sharing. Multiple participants can share simultaneously. Okay. Mike, I am asking you to unmute. So there should be a little pop-up.
Gotcha.
Okay. So I went ahead and started because Rachel asked me to go ahead and pop on.
Sure.
And Maddie's going to be introducing and Andrew will be doing some of the instructing, but you should be able to share screens now. Can both of you, Maddie and Andrew, look and see if you're able to?
Yeah, give me a minute.
Okay. And then Mike, I'm just going to be off mic and letting people in when they show up. Okay.
Okay. What should I do? What's my role?
Just to listen in, make sure everything's okay.
Okay. Hello, everybody.
Hi. Okay, so share screen.
And just give me a holler if you need me. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, didn't mean to do that. Okay, can you see what I have up? I can't see what I have up. Like I can't, but do you see this slideshow? I'm gonna go present.
I see it.
All right.
Sometimes it takes a moment to load. That's all.
Why is it taking so long though? Oh, there we go. So then, Andrew, you just tell me when to flip to the next slide, and I'll do that.
All right. Should we start now or wait for more people?
Well, there's nobody here, so I would say wait.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Just ask.
To see if anybody shows up.
I don't know how many people you typically have here.
Yeah, not that many. That's the truth. But I don't know how many people. I don't have access to. I don't know how many people are signed up with Eventbrite, or
Brady may have been the only other person to sign up.
oh, well, that's okay. We'll just wait. Oh, it's already 4:05. Okay, what about 4:10? Wait till 4:10, or maybe not that long. We'll just see.
Realize I got muted again.
I mean, I signed up too because I wasn't sure where the link was, but I got it clearly. Let's see. Well, yeah. Well, I feel like we can go ahead and start because, I don't want to have to wait forever and it just be awkward. So I guess I would just function as if there were more people here. Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Lebanon Public Library's Teen Advisory Group. Today we're going to be presenting something on Dungeons and Dragons 101. This presentation is mostly about introducing the idea of Dungeons and Dragons to somebody who's just kind of heard of it from kind of an outside perspective, whether on TV or on social media or something. I will just say, just to start out with, that Dungeons and Dragons is really, it's honestly kind of complicated. There's a lot of different parts to it, like creating a character is a lot of work, playing is a lot of work. So this is just a very basic introduction. If this presentation is popular and we have interest for more in-depth of different aspects of the game, we can do that. Like we can do a whole different presentation on character, like how to build your character, how to interact with characters within the game. But for now, these are just the basics. My name is Maddie Lacey. I'm a member of TAG, or the Teen Advisor Group, and I'm just here to, I don't know, represent TAG and suggest some things that the library might have to offer that's related to Dungeons and Dragons. My friend Andrew is, well, he's the dungeon master of our group that we play, but he'll do most of the presenting. I guess the other thing would be to introduce ourselves. So, introduce myself. Hi. I don't know, Brady, if you want to say something about yourself, how much you know about D&D.
Okay.
Go for it.
My name is Brady, and I'm currently in 8th grade, and I know absolutely nothing about Dungeons and Dragons.
Are you excited though? Like, are you pumped?
Absolutely. This is the whole
Yeah.
reason
It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good.
I really want to know about this stuff.
Yeah. And then Andrew, I can't see your screen on this thing, but if you want to introduce yourself and your background, kind of.
Well,
all
I'm
that.
Andrew. I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons for like 4 years now, and I've essentially read all the books and everything. I'm a junior at the Lebanon High School, and so yeah.
All right, so we'll get started. So let's see if I can just. Oh, okay, we already did kind of an introduction. Okay, so Andrew, what is D&D? What does it stand for? How does it work?
Well, D&D is for Dungeons and Dragons, and there's a lot of different ways people write the acronym D and sign D and D and D. You pretty much get the message across. It's the flagship tabletop role playing game, which means that there is no board. There are no there is not run by a computer, but essentially everyone makes a character and then explores the world based on how the dungeon master describes it. So the dungeon master is the one who runs the game while everybody else plays it. The biggest thing that separates D&D from other mediums like video games and things is that it is run by a human mind. So you're not restricted to 2 or 3 choices that the people who designed the game thought of when they made it. You can do most things as you are restricted by like physics and your character's abilities. Next slide.
So you said there's not like a specific board game, kind of like, I guess Monopoly has like a specific board game, but there are different like mats and stuff you can buy to just kind of show where your character is, right?
Yeah, most of the things you'll find for D&D that you put out like that are like books or mats that you can draw on or maps of where you are, but they aren't required to play. It's not like Monopoly, where if you don't have the board, then you're kind of lost.
Yes, not good. What else? So here's some pictures from pop culture. I think that's all. I think that's all for that slide. Next.
This is by no means an exhaustive list, but a lot of D&D is just the lingo. So I just figured I'd put some of the most popular ones that are here, because when you're first starting D&D, it can be very hard to understand what other people are talking about. So I always found it helpful to pull up like a list of acronyms or something, because like even after playing for a very long time, I still don't know all of the things off the top of my head.
What's a total kill party or total party kill?
That is when all of the players die.
Oh.
Generally, that's something that you want to happen.
Oh, that's
How hard is it for that?
What'd you say?
How hard is it for a PPK to actually happen?
Well, it's a lot of how well the dungeon master balanced it, because I mean, like if you put a whole bunch of really weak players against a really strong monster, it's likely. But if the dungeon master knows what he's doing, then it won't happen very often. If it does happen, it's usually due to either the dungeon master made the challenge very lopsided, or the players did something really dumb, like locked themselves in a room with a dragon. Like,
I'd probably be doing the latter, to be honest.
I mean, our party, I guess we haven't all died yet, so
No.
I think we have faith.
well, none of you have died.
Oh, that's true, but we've gotten very very
Gotten
close.
close.
But I would note that like I think it's better in D&D too that like you can almost die, but then how the game is structured that you can like revive yourself. Although you have to roll a die to see if you do survive, but you can revive yourself and you're just not killed off. Like it's
Dying in D&D there's a lot of safeguards in place to prevent it from happening wantonly.
that's good. We appreciate that. Okay, I'm gonna go to the next one. What's a D20?
So a D20 is the standard dice you'll use for D&D. D just stands for dice, and then the number behind it is the side of the die. So you'll have a D4, a D6, which is just a standard die, a D8, a D10, a D12, a D20, and a D100, which is this like ball-shaped thing.
Oh my
Most people
God.
don't use a D100; they just use two D10s. They assign one of them for the tens place and one of them for the ones place. So, and that's when you use less often, but some people like to have them.
I didn't know that was a thing. That's interesting. I think the thing about Dungeons and Dragons that's kind of iconic is like the different types of die that you have that are a lot different than the standard like 6-sided die.
Yeah.
They're fun. They're fun. I have a set. You can honestly, I think you can get them like anywhere, but those are mine.
They're
They're
fairly
kind of, huh?
I just said dice are fairly common to find, and I mean you can find them in all different styles and colors.
Yeah, it's nice. You can get. It's
there is
really versatile.
there's a huge plethora of dice. I mean, you have normal resin ones, which is just the standard that are usually like $5 to $10, and you can get like gemstone ones that are like $300. There is a ridiculously large range of different possibilities for dice.
I'm gonna move on. How do you design a character? Briefly.
Well, most important parts of designing a character are their class, their race, and their background and their stats. So most of them are taken from a list in the books that have different properties. Like a wizard has specific magic they can use, whereas a fighter gets different bonuses to their weapon attacks. And then you have your backgrounds, which is like what your character did before you became an adventurer, which add different buffs to you. And your race is obviously, whether you're a dwarf or a human or an elf. And then your stats are rolled. You have 6 stats. You have strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma, all of which do different things. That is a little bit in the weeds to explain. But so those are rolled with a specific die roll. And so and those determine what bonuses you get to doing specific roles in game. Like if you wanted to check for traps, it's good to have a high wisdom score because that helps you with perception to see the traps. So see, a lot of this is a lot of creating a character is very complicated, but it all comes together to make something that's fairly easy to use.
So yes, so race is like the actual, I don't know, kind of like type of creature, right? And then class is the occupation, right? Kind of.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, can you do it later? Please talk to mom. No. Sorry.
Bray, you're fine. Bray, do you have any questions about making a character? Any thoughts on that?
Not really.
Would you be what is it? Would you go for a dwarf or would you go for a birdman? Is the question.
Oh yeah, Birdman.
I actually have to like draw because I'm really bad at drawing things.
Oh, so I think the interesting thing that I've noticed about Dungeons and Dragons is there's a lot of like, well, I don't know if it's free, but there's a lot of different material online. So like, I didn't draw my character either. I just like went on Pinterest and like searched like elf drawing, and I picked one that I liked. Like, you're not required to draw your character. You can if you want, but you don't have to.
Yeah, I've played probably close to like 10 characters. I've never drawn any of them. You Google something like human wizard, and there are thousands of options. Like, I mean, all five of these characters down here, I didn't draw any of them. They're all from the Sketch Goblin, which is someone who does draw these that are all free online.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and would you say that the type of your race kind of can partly influence how well you can do as a certain, well, for lack of a better term, like character? Like certain creatures do better as tanks, or they do better as healers, or
Yeah, you get certain bonuses to your stats from each race, but just because you picked a race that doesn't give a particular bonus to the stats that you'll be using doesn't mean that you'll be at a significant disadvantage.
okay.
Because it's usually just 1 or 2 points that are affected. Like, I think a dwarf gives you 1 more point of constitution.
So you could be a dwarf tank if you wanted, right?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I think I'll probably stick with a human being for my first character.
I don't think that's a thing, is it?
What? Yeah, humans are a thing.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Humans are the main race. You can be a human.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. But I mean, I think since it's a fantasy game, it's fun to be a little bit different than, like, I'm a human every day. Like, I want to be an elf sometimes, okay?
But yeah, there are a lot of different options for races. I mean, like, you can be a warforged, which is like a robot. You can be an elephant man. You can.
Well, that would be interesting.
What is is that like, does it actually look like an elephant? Like, how does it work?
It's a loxodon. It's a giant elephant man.
Oh, okay. What are the most common races, you'd say?
Well, that depends what you're talking about. You're talking about in the world or that people play?
That people play, not in the world.
What that people play, I'd probably say elves are fairly common, as are dwarves.
Mm-hmm.
But like in most campaign, like in most settings where you're going to be playing, humans are the dominant race.
I didn't know you could. I really didn't know you could be human. That's cool. Let's see. What is the most common class people usually opt for to play?
Either fighter, bard, or wizard.
Yeah.
But speaking of which, on the right side, those are all of the classes you can pick, except for the bottom right and the bottom left. The bottom right is the DM. That's the person who runs the game. And the bottom left is a weird case that I won't get into, but it's not one of the classes that you can usually pick.
They're pretty drawings, I'll say that. Let's see. Fighter, cleric, wizard. I think most of them make sense. What's the paladin? What's that?
Paladin is as a holy warrior, you have a code you have to follow, and you get a lot of healing spells as well as like tank materials.
Oh, that sounds cool.
Mm-hmm.
I think that sounds like the best of both worlds. Warlock, sorcerer, druid. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna go to the next slide. Well, we kind of already talked about this. How does your character that you pick influence your group as a whole?
Well, depending on what you picked for all of your class and your background and your race, you have different strengths and different weaknesses. I mean, like someone who's wearing heavy armor won't have as easy a time sneaking into like a fort as a trained rogue would. So that's one of the things. Like if you decide to specialize in one thing, you give your party the ability to do that well, as opposed to if you weren't there, your party would be at a disadvantage of not having that.
Mhm.
Like one important thing a lot of parties have is a healer. If you don't have a healer, then you're gonna have to be stopping and buying healing potions more often.
Yes, I'll say that. Do you have kind of like an archetype of like 4 different types you should have in general? Like, is it a healer and another thing, or does it just like depend on what your party is willing to accommodate, do?
Well, I mean, a party can be made up of anything, and still be a good party. But typically, the conventional wisdom is that you should have a tank, a fighter, like somebody who deals damage, a support class that buffs those two, and yeah, a healer. So you need someone to take hits, someone to deal out damage, somebody to help those two people survive, and one person to try to heal them when they get low on health.
But so I guess could you have like a total party of healers just for no reason? Like,
yeah, I mean, everybody in the party could pick to be a healer, could pick to be a cleric, and wander around healing people. I mean, that's an option.
it'd be interesting. Yeah.
You'd have long battles as you did little damage and kept healing each other, but it is a viable party.
That's interesting. Okay, I'm gonna go to the next slide. What's a non-player character or an NPC?
Essentially, those are characters that are run by the dungeon master. So except for the players, every other person in the world is an NPC. They're generally there to give information to the characters or lead them in a specific direction or give out quests. Because I mean, it's essentially like a lot of video games. If you just wandered around and there was nobody else in the world except for your character, it'd be pretty boring. So you need other characters that aren't controlled by you to fill out the world.
Do you consider monsters non-player characters because they don't communicate that much?
Well, they can be, especially if they do communicate with the characters. And I mean, because some monsters don't communicate, like they don't have languages, but a lot of monsters can be talked to and can be reasoned with.
What is BBEG again?
It's a big bad evil guy. It's the main boss.
Oh.
Like the final boss?
Yeah.
What happens if you manage to kill them?
Well, then you win.
Oh.
Usually what happens then is the dungeon master will transition into a new adventure.
Makes
Like
sense.
on one of my first games, my party got really lucky and killed the big bad evil guy really early. And so yeah, our dungeon master had to like stop the session for the rest of the day and like find a new adventure for us to do.
Sounds like a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the dungeon master does do a lot. There's a lot of reading and planning that's involved in that.
Do you have a certain system, like a personal system as a DM that you keep track of everything? Do you keep track of it on like a Google Drive, Google Sheets or something?
I have giant like notes, just huge. Like I have paper notes and I have online notes, and they're all a jumbled mess that I really do need to organize.
Do you know other DMs that have different ways of organizing their information?
A lot of DMs carry a DM binder, which is just one giant binder full of paperwork that they have for being a DM, and some people do it all online. And I have an index of all of my different things where things are, and I know some people just kind of have all of their notes in one big pile to have to go through. It's very unique to every different DM how they organize all their notes and everything.
I'm gonna go to the next slide. What did I say? Oh, how does fighting happen? How does it work with the numbers and the dice?
So basically, every turn you get a movement and an action. So you can like move 30 feet and then hit something. And so when you hit, you have to roll 2 dice. One die you roll to see if you hit it, and one die to see how much damage you do if you hit it. So if you miss it, then you don't do any damage. But if you manage to hit it, then you have to see how much damage you do to it. And there are other things that you can do. Like there are special actions and things that like barbarians can give themselves a bonus for like 6 rounds on their turn, and things like that are more specific to each character. But generally, everybody gets a movement and an action every round.
But I would say switching weapons is a whole action.
Mm-hmm.
That's all you can do one turn. So it kind of sucks to do that. So I just keep the same in my hand all the time. Yeah. And then, I would, because like my specific character, I have a thing where if I use like a point, then I get to have 2 extra turns. I get to like strike, like an unarmed strike twice. So it just depends on your character, what different types of abilities you can do, and if you kind of get like extra turns.
Mm-hmm.
Next thing. What did I say? Oh, what's the setting? Do you stay in one place?
Well, that's very specific to the campaign you're doing, because like some campaigns might all take place in one town, and other ones you might be traveling to different like planes of existence. Like you might go to the Earth plane and back to the normal plane, and then to the airplane. Not an airplane, the airplane. It's the plane of air. I should have picked a different plane, but so it's very much different to the game you're playing, and a lot of the times the setting is just defined by the players. I mean, like this is a picture of one of the standard D&D settings. It's the Sword Coast, but if like the players decided, okay, they want to go east and travel off into the distance off this map, then that's fine. That's the setting, and they could go explore what's out over there, which there like are maps of that, but I don't have a picture of one.
That's fine.
So it's very much depends on like what specifically you're doing in your game. Because I mean, like in like killing and like trying to go defeat the dragon that's trying to take over the world, has a bigger setting than overthrowing a crime boss in one city. Like
It probably take longer too.
it can.
Yeah. So it depends. Okay. What's the difference between a campaign, a session, an adventure? How's it divided?
Well, a session is one meeting of your group. Like that's when you all sit down and roll dice and play. A campaign is a collection of sessions that with the same people. So like if you all meet for 3 months and then stop, that's your campaign. And then an adventure is a pre-made campaign that you can do. And there's a lot of different terminology and things you can do for this, but basically it's pretty much just these two, session and campaign, are the big ones.
Yeah, and you can go on multiple campaigns with the same group. It's just kind of separate stories, right?
Yeah.
Let's see. How do you join a group? How'd you find your group?
There are a lot of ways to do that. I mean, like I've seen Facebook ads about it, and like you can just like get together with your friends and do it. and sometimes there are ones at like at like schools. Like I'm not sure. I think Lebanon High School might have one this year. I'm not sure. I know I heard somebody talking about it, but I don't know. But some of them do that. And like I know before COVID, there were like some like the books at like the Mulberry bookstore and different ones like that that occasionally accept new members. And a lot of the times it's just like finding people who also like D&D and playing with them.
Yes. I said, and well, did you say one time that there's kind of like some people would be willing to do like a drop-in session, like you make a character one day, play with them, but then don't have to commit to meeting with them every single month or something?
Yeah. Those are called one shots, which essentially, yeah, you all get together for one session and do an adventure or campaign, and then you're done. And those happen fairly often, but usually it's with either the same group of people or a similar group of people.
Next, I don't think I added that one. Where
No,
can
you-
you see people playing D&D?
There are a lot of different like web series and on YouTube and podcasts about it. Like one of the famous ones is Critical Role with Matt Mercer, and another one is Acquisitions Incorporated with Chris Perkins, and then there are other ones that aren't D&D but are similar enough that if you weren't told they weren't D&D, you would have wouldn't know the difference. Like Harmon Quest. One of the important things to remember if you're watching these is, like, for example, Matt Mercer is a professional voice artist. Like he is like paid money to voice things for like TV shows. So your DM will not have the thespian abilities of Matt Mercer.
So you're like lower your expectations. Is what you're
And
saying.
that's one thing he's actually commented on before, is that just because when people watch like Critical Role, they think that that's what their DM's going to be like, and it's not. Because not everybody is a professional voice actor.
Yeah. Well, do you personally watch them, or you find that boring?
I've watched them before. Like I've watched all of Harmon Quest, and I've watched some of Acquisitions Incorporated, and and Critical Role is a really big series. Like there's multiple different ones, and I've watched some of that, but not enough to have a sampling of it. From what all of these are very good, and there are definitely other ones. I mean, like you can just look up like D&D podcast and find 100 results.
Do these ones are they making up their own game, or do they usually go by something that's pre-made by like the company?
Usually they make up their own, but I mean some of them do pre-made adventures.
Well, I would assume watching them takes a long time, since the sessions take a long time, right?
I mean, it can. I mean, most of them have shorter sessions than like we do,
Oh.
but yeah, it can be a while. It's usually not like a 10-minute thing. It like most of them are like an hour long a piece.
Oh, well, that's reasonable.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, and like
longer sessions.
and a lot of them aren't just people sitting around a table. Like I know Harmon Quest is animated with all their characters.
Well, that's cool. So you can actually like physically see what's happening. I like the idea of that. That's nice.
Cool, actually.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Brady, most of it is that you just kind of have to envision it. Like the DM will show you a map so you can see kind of like, well, sometimes not, but usually there's a map so you can see kind of what they're describing. But then you just kind of have to envision, like, okay, now my character is striking with a sword. Now we're flying in the clouds. Like, it really is, I would say. I mean, and also what the DM does is they will, I don't know how it is in person. They will show you pictures too of like the non-player characters. They'll be like, okay, so this is what they look like. So you can kind of see like so this is what they look like. But a lot of it you have to just kind of visualize yourself.
Yeah, a lot of DMs give context, like showing a picture of the NPC, But like if your character says they're going to try to do a backflip over the table, you're not actually doing that. You just have to kind of imagine the character doing that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that would be interesting to make your DM do crazy things.
Uh-huh, yeah. That wouldn't be
We could get
exhausting.
somebody who acts like as like a stunt double for a movie and do that.
You know, and you know, sure. I think they wouldn't be playing Dungeons and Dragons. I think they would be like, please give me money.
You just have to get Jason Bourne to be your DM.
Or maybe Tom Cruise. I don't know if you want to have
Keanu
the
Reeves?
character driving on a motorcycle for some reason. That's my impression of Tom Cruise, probably my actor. Yeah, so I didn't know that. That's cool that you could have it animated for you. That's cool. Okay, next. What did I say? Okay, so well, I don't know if I established this. Andrew and I are in the same like Dungeons and Dragons party, and we do all of our sessions online. But I was gonna say Andrew has experience doing it online with us, and then some in-person experience. So how would you say they're different? Is there one that's better?
Well, D&D is typically a very like it says here, a very tactile game. Everybody usually has to be in the same room to do it, and it can be very difficult to do virtually. Although after being in quarantine for a year, there are more and more resources to do D&D online, and so instead of being in the same room like you would in person, usually you're in something like Zoom with everybody, and then you'll have a dice rolling program. Like I know Google has one, and I use one on Discord, and then a map sharing program so everybody can see like all of the pictures that you're putting up. And so it can be challenging to do online, but it's certainly not impossible. And like I know a lot of people did it before COVID when like they couldn't get together, especially for people who live like across the country from each other who want to play D&D. Yeah. They can't do a monthly session where they all drive in like middle of Utah to
Yeah, I could see that. That could be difficult. Yeah. So I'm gonna go to the next one. What are some things that you wish you would have known before playing D&D the first time?
Well, yeah. Well, one thing I always emphasize with people is note taking. A lot of D&D is writing things down so you can make sure to recall them later. Because I mean, if at the beginning of the campaign you hear somebody say, "I don't know what it is with all these bandits around," that might be an important detail later. And so the DM is essentially, like I've already explained before, is just in charge of creating the world for the players to explore. So that was a little confusing. Like the first time I played was like what exactly their job is, and then a lot of D&D is math. It's like rolling dice and adding up a whole bunch of different things to make things happen in the world. And then and you're all, and the party is working together to make a story. You're all, and generally you're all working towards the same goal. So it doesn't matter. It's not like world ending if your character dies, because it's the party's story. So you can like make a new character and rejoin the party and continue on, which is important. And the biggest thing, which is the first one here, is don't take things personally. You and your character are not the same person. When one of the other characters, I don't know, attacks your character because he doesn't like what he's doing, that person is not attacking you. His character is attacking your character. And that's one thing that people get like upset about when they first play D&D. Well, he's being mean to me. No, he's not. His character is acting like his character would in that situation.
Well, the other thing is that your character you have to think about, you are your character in a sense too. Like, so you as a person, as a human in the real world might know something, but your character just might not know it in that context. You have to act like that. You're supposed to act accordingly.
That's called metagaming, where you use outside knowledge that your character wouldn't know. So
Don't
like
do that.
If you looked over at your DM's notes and saw the big bad guy, and then your character suddenly knew where to find him, that would be metagaming, and that's not allowed because how would your character know that?
I don't know that. So there's a name for it.
Yeah.
I think you should put the characters in a jail. That'd be fun. Like, if they did that, then they'd be like punished like that. But maybe
Well,
not.
my character's been in jail before, but
Why?
don't worry about it. He
Okay.
may or may not have burned down a tavern. It's not a big deal.
Okay. And then what are your pictures you have here? You just liked them?
Well, I had these two because they look similar, so it was kind of a representation of he is not his character, and this is a human.
Oh. Dungeon Master is, oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, you're not the same. Although I haven't been offended yet, but we'll see. I don't know. The other interesting thing about obviously is like if your character is into a weird monster thing and wants to seduce them, you're in real life. You're not seducing a monster thing. Like you're different.
Grace isn't. You can't shame her.
I'm not shaming. I'm not shaming anybody. Just putting that out. Yeah. So they're different. They're different. Oh, Q&A. Brady, what are your questions, man?
What about the occupations again?
Oh, you want here? I will go back to the slide.
Well, like healer, fighter, tank.
Those are okay. So the occupation would be your class, and then the healer fighter would be that's kind of more like an archetype, if that makes sense.
That's the role the character fills.
I'll let Andrew explain.
And yeah, these are over to the right are all of the different classes you can do. And I mean, of course, all of them are explained in the books, like where you would find these. And I mean, and you have magic classes, you have half magic classes, you have third magic classes, you have no magic classes. It's kind of confusing, but it's essentially how many spells your character has. Like a fighter doesn't have any spells, so it'd be a no magic class. Whereas a wizard is wholly focused on magic, so he'd be a full magic class. And then like a paladin has some spells and some, ability to whack people with a sword. So he'd be a half magic class. And so it really just depends on what you want to play. I mean, like if you want to be I'm trying to think of a good example. If you want to be like Gandalf, you should pick a wizard. But if you wanted to be like Aragorn, you should pick a ranger, because those are just kind of what they do. I mean, like a ranger hunts around in the forest, whereas a wizard casts spells.
Yeah. Yeah, and think about what's your character into? Like, are they into foresty things? Are they into, do you want them to be kind of like religious-y too? There's a lot of different types of gods, I think. So do you want them to be like that?
Religion of this game?
Yeah.
It's a fake religion in the game.
Yeah, I know, but
yeah, I'm just clearing that up. There aren't a whole lot of people wandering around espousing the pros and cons of Christianity and Islam, but yeah, there are a ton of different gods and different pantheons. Like you have Mysteria is the goddess of magic, whereas Anum is the giant god of creation. So there is enough gods that if you want your character to have a specific one, it probably exists. Like,
or that Nick is like, his god has something about the undead. Like
his god is Kelvamore. It's a god of death.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Sometimes what you choose as your class can impact certain things. Like I don't know. I don't think Nick can fight back against the undead as well, or something like that. Like sometimes I think it impacts it a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Well, like Brooke, who plays a druid, can't wear metal armor because druids can't wear metal armor. So if she wants to have higher powered armor, she has to like get it specially made or get an enchanted version. So there are pros and cons to each class.
Okay.
Do you have one that you think sounds interesting, Brady?
Probably fighter. Still trying to think around what my character is going to be into.
So I don't know.
Fighters like whole job is just to sit there and whack things. Like that's their whole thing. I mean, like when you
That's it?
play a fighter, you get a lot of different skills that just help you do more damage when you hit something or be more likely to hit something. And so fighters a good class.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I don't really know the classes that well. I can tell you that a rogue is somebody who is kind of like a thief, kind of like a criminal. They can lockpick, and they can transform into like other things to fool people. So that's interesting.
No, that's because she's a changeling.
Oh, right. Okay, they can ignore that part. You could be a changeling rogue, and that's what you could do. But
And like druids can morph into different animals that they've seen.
oh. Well, okay, so also another thing about characters is that we didn't talk a lot about it, but characters have alignments. But how much does that impact how much you have to think about it? Like,
well, alignments, a lot of people don't look at alignments right. In alignment, you have two axes. It's lawful to chaotic and good to evil, with neutrals in between. So a lot of people think that they have to pick an alignment, and because they picked that alignment, they have to act a certain way. But I've always seen it as you are in alignment because of the way you act. You don't I don't know, steal gold from the priest because you're evil. You are evil because you stole the gold from the priest.
I can see that.
So that's a less important part of creating your character, but it helps with developing their personality.
Yes. And you
Lawful
have
evil.
to make. Oh, what'd you say, Brady?
Lawful evil. I believe I've heard of the whole alignment thing a little bit.
If you Google it, like if you like alignments, then it'll bring up like pictures of like different movies that kind of explain. Like that's how I understood it. Like it had different Harry Potter characters and explained like, okay, well this character is this. So I was like, okay, well that makes sense. Like
you can find one of those for anything. Like if you understand Star Wars, you can find one for Star Wars. I've
probably seen one for stuff from Star Wars at some point. Can't remember when.
I mean, I'm sure if you Google it now, it'll come up.
It'll definitely come up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Internet is a fascinating place.
A lot of the different charts put different people in different slots where you can see where they do that, and that's kind of the point. A lot of people don't fall directly into one category.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Pretty much all I know is like the good guys up at the towards the closer to the top left, worst personalities down towards the bottom right, and then the guys right smack in the center or have personalities of sandpaper.
Well, that's the thing. Just because you're a chaotic evil person doesn't mean you can't be in the same party as a lawful good person. Maybe you're just motivated by selfish means. Maybe you want to overthrow the evil guy who's trying to destroy the planet so you can I don't know, steal his treasure or take his place.
Scandalous. I mean, I don't know. I don't think that necessarily. It doesn't dictate everything I do as a character. I don't really think about it, but I don't even know the other people's alignments actually. But
I don't either.
Okay, so yeah, it doesn't. Okay. Brady, do you have any other questions?
I believe that's it. I'll try to read as much as I can on my own. Hopefully.
Okay, wait. Here, I have a slide for that. The Q&A. Okay, these are Lebanon Public Library resources that you can look at. So most of these are ebook. I don't know if you know how to use the Overdrive app, but it's basically like it's how you can get ebooks from the library and you use your library card to sign into it. So we have Dungeons and Dragons Tombs, that's an ebook. Player's Handbook, Wizards and Spells is an ebook. Dungeons and Dragons for Dummies, that's an ebook. Oh, Player's Handbook is in person.
So the Player's Handbook is the book that like everybody has to read to play Dungeons and Dragons. that has all of the different classes and races and things in it. And so, and like, there are a lot, you can find a player handbook everywhere. Like you have no problem finding one of those online. And the Dungeons and Dragons for Dummies is 4th edition. Everything else I've talked about is 5th edition. So that book will not make any sort of sense if you try to read it.
So completely useless.
Well, that it's just not
Okay.
useful for whatever this context because we play in
I mean, if
fourth
you're going to
edition.
play Dungeons and Dragons 4th edition, then that would be helpful. But essentially the way it goes is people like 5th edition and the 3rd and a half edition, which I don't understand it either. I don't understand why, but that's essentially the thing. They think that the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd editions are lousy. 3.5 is good. 4th is lousy, and 5th is good.
Well,
I have
that
only ever played
was just
5th, so I am
one.
not speaking from experience, but that's what I've heard a lot of people say.
I mean, that was the one that's available at the library. But another thing is that, yeah, like Andrew said, you can get the player's handbook as a PDF for free online if you just look it up. So don't feel like you have to buy a bunch of books necessarily just to get started. I mean, definitely if it's like something that you're really interested in and you're invested, and then eventually, I guess, if you want to be a DM, maybe.
I mean, Dungeons and Dragon books are really expensive. They're like $60 a piece.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe
Yeah.
don't if you don't want
Well,
that
just
kind of
I mean, you
investment.
can. I think I have 4 books, but you don't, and like you don't have to buy them. You have no obligation to buy them, because yeah, they're crazy expensive, and you can find them online for free.
There's a lot of free stuff available. These are some other I can post this slideshow on Google Classroom so then you can go over the slides, and then these are like the clickable link things, so you can look at these just to get started if you want to make a character or something.
Just going down the list, free D&D PDFs that I think is pretty self-explanatory. Fantasy Name Generator is this amazing website that I don't think gets enough credit. It has a whole bunch of different like options you can choose. Like you can go to the elf one and get 1,000 different names for elves. It's very helpful as a DM for naming NPCs, because I can only think of so many names at once. And then you have a D&D quick reference, which just helps you. Well, I still use it when I'm playing, just so I know what everything can do. Roll20 and Mythic Table are both online things to help you like play D&D online. Roll20 is fine. I don't like it. It makes you buy a lot of things, but Mythic Table is free and really good. And the image makers are both things you can use to create your character for free. This is one thing I've done before, is used these. Like I said, I've never drawn one of my characters, so you can make them in these, and it looks pretty cool.
So I'm guessing what you do is like put into some basic information into like a generator, and it shows you something, or
I don't believe that is either of these. These you can just you go and customize it from a set of different, you can pick the hairstyle, and then you can pick the armor and what weapon they're holding. And that's I like both of them. I've used them for characters before, and the second one is called Hero Forge, where you can design your character, and you can buy a miniature of it, but you don't have to. You can just look at the thing online. It's interesting. And then you have the class list, which is again kind of self-explanatory. It's the all the classes you can choose, and the D&D rule reference is just a short doc with some of the rules in it that are easy to forget. An RPG bot analyzes the different classes and options, so that's helpful if you're trying to decide between two things. The equipment list is just all the different things in Dungeons and Dragons. You probably won't need that very much. I mean, that unless you're specifically looking for something.
Sure.
The character sheet is a Google sheet of what a character sheet looks like that you can print or just fill out online. Spell list is a list of spells. Assorted D&D links. This is just a website full of different D&D links. I have not used very many of them, but they seem very helpful. D&D Beyond and 5e Tools are websites that are just kind of full of generic D&D information, like stats and what else is what the different rules are, and those can be helpful. And then the PHB is the player handbook, and the DMG is the Dungeon Master's Guide. So those are direct links to the books on the website. That's linked in the free D&D PDFs.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, so Andrew, I have a question.
Mm.
Okay, would you be willing to I can't even see the chat box anymore. Oh, leave your email in the chat box, so if Brady has any more questions, you could email.
Yeah. Oh shoot, what's my email?
Okay.
It's Odom something at
Well, I
Gmail.
can't figure out which email I actually check because I have like two trash emails.
Oh,
Let me see. Nope, that's not right. Gmail.com. I can spell, that's fine.
I haven't done English in like 2 weeks, so.
Oh, it's hard.
No.
Words are difficult.
So I'll give you a minute to write that down.
Just copy pasted the first one.
Oh, so you have it?
Yeah.
Okay. This is Andrew Elliott.
Yeah, hi.
He knows a lot about a lot of things. Okay. And then, okay, this is my end page. If you, Ray, you already know, but Lebanon Public Library has a Facebook, and we have 2 Instagram accounts that you should like and follow if you want to come to more riveting events like this. No, I think it was a good event though. But yeah, I think you already know those social media things. So, okay, stop share. Oh, there we go. Okay, thank you all for coming. If we don't have any more questions, I think I can go ahead and end it. Thank you, Andrew, for your lovely presentation.
Thank you guys.
What'd you say?
Thank you guys for the help.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
I do feel kind of lonely being like the only person who actually showed up. That was just like, yeah,
I mean,
Yeah,
you
we
can
had a lot of
have
applicants. We picked you to get this presentation. You're 1 in a million.
You
Thousands
guys
of
did a
people.
wonderful job, by the way, all of you.
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Well, you just got some one-on-one attention. You know, I think it's good. We still last it, and then I'll let Rachel know who showed up.
Yeah, I learned a little bit too, so thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you guys. Good job.
All right. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.